Hey everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy and you are on the boat. Carolina, Canada. Good to see you. Kristen Melinda, what's happening? The Johnny Scoville. Cliff Ann, good to see you. You know what? We did this yesterday and I dig it. There's a lot of new people on the boat. Some of you have been here forever, but some are fairly new. Kristen Melinda, good to see you. So do me a favor and throw down where you are from. If you could just put the part of the country or the part of the world that you are visiting us from, it gives people an opportunity to get to know you. And this is a family, like it or not, we really are. So this is one of those subjects that if anybody likes you and they're friends of you on YouTube, they'll say, hey, I got an idea. Stay away from this story. Like keep 600 miles between you and what's happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota, because nothing good ever comes from covering this kind of story. You're going to alienate part of the audience if you talk about it, especially if you have an opinion of any kind. However, I would like to believe that we're a slightly smarter audience than that, and that I can come here and talk about some of the issues concerning what's happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota, without pissing everybody off. Now, I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. San Diego, California. Hey, Kathy, good to have you. Northern Michigan, Kansas, Philadelphia. See this? We are bad, and we are nationwide. North Texas. Good to have you here, Christy Wolf. So, there's obviously a lot going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is a uncomfortable situation, I think, for all parties involved. I don't care what side of the political divide you are on. England, Christy Collins, great to have you here from Derbyshire. Johnny Scoville, it'd be Derbyshire, Dales, England, Knoxville, Tennessee. I love Tennessee. My girl lives in Bugtussle, Tennessee. I'm surprised you didn't know that. So here's the deal on this. There have been 2 shootings in this part of the country, and they have been shot by ICE. And it is definitely getting an awful lot of people to weigh in on this. And a lot of them are pretty angry, right? And I get it. I understand why people are angered by this. The first of the individuals was a woman by the name of Good, which is this is her right here. This woman was the woman that was shot in her vehicle, and there are people that say, she was in the process of hitting an officer, right? There are people that say that she did not, and we'll get to that. But either way, this is obviously a tough situation for all parties involved.
Give Parmjean Sani from Toronto. He wants a shout out.
I'm sorry, from where?
Shout out Toronto.
Toronto.
Parmjean.
Parmjean?
Parmjeet.
Aha. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you here, and I love doing a shout out to that part of the world.
Warm.
Yeah. So here's the deal on that. It is getting a little warm, isn't it?
I'm saying.
That's what I'm talking about. Janet Brown from Arkansas, North Carolina. You know something, Just Joan? I will try to keep my opinion sane, peaceful, and with any strength silent. Well, here's the deal. This is one of those situations that is absolutely uncomfortable for all parties involved. Anytime somebody loses their life, Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida, good to see you. Anytime somebody loses their life, it's a painful thing to experience, and it is a painful thing to watch. Alex Jeffrey Pretti is the most recent victim of ICE. Right, this is this gentleman right here. He worked in an intensive care unit. By all accounts, this was a very kind individual. He was super into the outdoors. He was an avid outdoorsman. He enjoyed hiking and fishing. Most people said that he was kind-hearted and dedicated without any violent history. His only prior records were traffic tickets, right? No one wants to see anybody like this die. No one wants to see an American die for any reason. But I will say this, and some of you will get really bummed out by it. You know what? I'll be really honest with you. I can't give a shit at this point. I'm sorry, I can't. And here's how it goes. If you break the law, bad things happen. Take this from somebody that spent a lot of time in prison. Protesting and breaking the law are 2 different things. They used to do sit-ins in the 1960s, right? But here's what happens. If you go out and you start to try to get in the face of people that are protesting, you have to be literally living under a rock to not realize that the people that are out there right now who are trying to carry out the mission that ICE has been ordered to do, this is a pressure cooker. This is not a situation that you need to start going, ah, right? Because there's a real good chance somebody's going to fire a pistol. If you ever saw the movie Tombstone, or if you've ever read any books, hey, Callie Chaos, good to see you. You ever read any books about what happened at Tombstone and the shootout at the OK Corral? There were a lot of people standing there, right, with guns pointed at one another. And everybody was kind of waiting for that one thing to happen. And the second it did, everybody kind of opened fire. Now, I am a former criminal, right? Most people know this. If you don't, welcome to the boat. I am a convicted felon. I've been convicted of a bunch of felonies. One of them was running guns. One of them was bank robbery. So I've got a checkered past. Because of that, I've been around people that break the law fairly often, right? And there's some insights that I think you got to be a criminal to bring to this. Tommy, do you think we'll ever get a true account of deaths, costs of this policy of Trump and his administration? Honestly, who knows, right? Who knows? But that right there kind of leads us in a direction to say that they're wrong. And I'm not going down that road. I don't give a shit about your politics. I'm talking about the two dead people. You see this gun right here? I'm familiar with this gun, probably in ways that most of you are not. That is a Sig Sauer, right? Is the P320. And I'll tell you something about it. What's that? Yeah, Johnny Scoville had a couple too. But let me tell you something about this gun. I would rather not have a weapon than have to carry that one. And the reason is, now I don't carry a weapon anymore anyway, convicted felon and whatnot. And I went to prison for felon in possession of a firearm. It's not something I would ever do again, right? These days, if I'm going to carry a weapon, since I'm in South America, we'll just go with the big, long, right?
Sword.
Yeah, the sword. It's it's the weapon of choice in South America, right? Everybody has a, what do they call those again? Can't think of the name of it. It's the big thing that you cut through the jungle with, but I can't think of it right now. Machete. There you go. It's a machete. Everybody down here has one. And you kind of have to just for foliage. It's not just as a weapon. But here's the deal on this. That gun has been recalled, so to speak. Now, they don't do a recall necessarily on guns like this. This was a weapon that the military adopted. You're familiar with the M16, right? That is our military assault rifle. Well, the M17 and the M18 are both Sig Sauer versions of the 320. They do not have, right, especially the street version, they don't have an external safety. That's kind of a bummer, right? The Glocks are the same way. There is no safety. The difference is that this one has a hammer that is very similar to like the hammer, like the 1911A by Colt. This is a weapon that discharges without people touching it. Now, I'm not making this up. There has been an $11 million lawsuit settled. There are 70 lawsuits against the company. They did a voluntary upgrade. So if you wanted to bring your gun to the people and see gun, I'm already guns. That's what they're called. They're not called pew-pews. But if you brought your gun into a gun store, then Sig Sauer would repair the gun and upgrade it so that these kind of accidental discharges would not happen. You can go and look at. I hate an accidental discharge more than the next guy. If you go and look at old videos online, you can watch guys that will demonstrate how this gun can go off by jiggling it, by picking it up by the receiver, right? There's a lot of different ways that this gun simply goes off, and it has killed individuals. There have been very large lawsuits settled against SIG because of this. So my take on what happened yesterday, and this is just purely my take. I don't care about your politics. This is just what happened at that scene. This gentleman who was carrying a weapon, and everybody likes to say he was legal. He had a permit to carry this weapon. He was not legal. Don't get this effed up. You're not really doing much research. In order to carry a weapon legally in that state, you have to have identification on you. You also have to carry the card that says you can legally carry it. This man had no identification on him. None. Now, that may sound like I'm splitting hairs. It's a law, right? So what he was doing was not carrying legally. He had it in his waistband. And a week earlier, this man had been tackled in a protest. In fact, it's a so. In fact, there were some broken ribs involved in him being tackled. When he goes out to the next protest, he brings a gun. He also brings 2 extra magazines.
What didn't he bring with him?
He didn't bring identification with him.
Oh, no.
That's what he didn't bring with him.
Against the law?
Yeah, it is against the law, right? So he was not legally carrying. I'm sorry, he was not. But he had this in his waistband. And he decided that he was going to get in the face of the officers. He was going to hold his phone up like this, and he was going to get as close to him as he could and start filming. You want to do that? You absolutely can. It's probably not a great idea to get in the face of people who are trigger happy. These people have really been overworked, right? I'll concede that. These guys are working way too many hours, and this is a pressure cooker of a situation. It really is. It's an ugly situation. But what happens is we have protesters, and I'm doing this number right here with protesters. Because if you begin to start interfering with a law enforcement agency of any kind, you're no longer a protester, you're a criminal. And people go, well, these are peaceful protests. Well, maybe you didn't catch them destroying the lobby, right, of a hotel the other night. Destroying the lobby. This isn't peaceful protesting. I'm sorry, it's not. Peaceful protesting was in the 60s when they had sit-ins, right? They would go into restaurants and everybody would sit down. And then when the cops came, they would put their hands on the top of their heads and the cops would come and shackle them and then take them to jail. At which point you would get to go in front of a judge and actually challenge the laws that you were there to protest. Jumping into the face of a cop and yelling, you're a pig, you're a mother effer, probably not a great idea, right? Take this from a guy that spent time in prison. When the groups in there are getting ready to riot, keep your mouth shut and stay away from them. If you go up to the races that you're not getting along with and start calling them racial slurs, that riot's going to break off really quickly. All of these men are armed and they're all worried about it. Why? Because these people literally are doing everything within their power to pick fights. Why go to a protest carrying a weapon with two clips after last week being tackled? Because this guy was looking for a confrontation, right? I'm sorry, right? He found it. He found that confrontation. And everybody says, hey, he was this is a guy that worked. He had a job. He wasn't doing anything wrong. If you actually do a little bit more research, you're going to find out that his parents, Michael and Suzanne Pretti, revealed he quit his job months earlier and has exhibited really unusual behavior since then. They said that he had joined some kind of group. They had warned him against engaging in protest, but the messages from his phone recovered by police suggest deeper involvement. Now, you can say that that's bullshit. You can say that you don't believe that. It's odd that his parents would say it, right? Normally, especially when you think about what a lawsuit this is probably going to be, it would be in his parents' best interest to keep their mouths shut. But for them to come out and say, no, he stopped going to work and he started hanging out with some pretty radical people. That's not something you would assume most parents would say in a situation like this, unless they realized that their kid was getting out of control. And I'm not happy that this dude's dead. I'm not. But you know something? When I broke the law, I got arrested. I got sent to prison. I did my time. I didn't walk around with a pistol and get in the face of police officers. If I did, I'd be dead. When I robbed banks, I didn't carry a gun. Now, I'll tell you what happened at this scene, and you're going to find out that this is the truth. If you've ever seen situations where cops hear gun, everybody is this close to pulling the trigger, right? That's just the way it goes. They're scared for their life. They want to go home to their kids. They're this close to pulling the trigger. Now, sorry?
Just like Tombstone.
Yeah, like Tombstone, just like the OK Corral. Everyone is just on edge. They got fingers on triggers. They're not laying against the trigger guard anymore. Now they're inside that trigger guard. Now a cop goes and tries to take this gun out of the man's waistband. And in the process of doing that, you hear a shot. Now, they haven't said that that shot came from that gun, but I'll bet you my pinky it did. That doesn't mean that he was brandishing it, right? I don't believe the narrative from them either. But taking that gun out of the holster, it discharged.
Hey,
whether or not that guy...
Yeah,
it may or may not have had anything to do with the trigger. You literally can go online and look up the Sig Sauer P320, and you will see guys literally squeezing, right, the slide on the top and jiggling it and having it go off. These are very unpredictable guns. That's a problem. But the gun goes off, and everybody there thinks this dude's firing at cops. So trust and believe they're going to unload, and two people apparently did. They unloaded what they had in their magazines into this guy and murdered him laying down on the ground.
Dude, I played paintball once, and I said, put my hands up, and 40 shots hit me before they were done.
You don't want to pick a fight with people that have guns. But this is exactly what these people do. It's not much different than Ms. Good, who you can hear people argue on both sides of it. She never hit the cop. Have you seen the body camera image? She hit the cop. I'm sorry she did. But I don't care about that. What I care about is before that, while they're yelling at these guys and calling them pigs and saying, you see my effing license plate? It hasn't changed since last effing night. When you don't have any respect whatsoever for authority, you stand a decent chance of getting death by lead. Don't push people who are on the edge because of what they do for a living. Both of these individuals would be alive today if it was not for decisions that they made. I don't give a shit how much you want to unsubscribe over that, right? And I don't care about the politics of it. I really could not care less. But you put yourself into a position where you can get killed and then people cry about it. All you had to do was not F with these people. They say, well, they pepper sprayed somebody and shoved a woman to the ground. And with a gun in your waistband, you thought it would be a really good idea to run in the middle of this and put yourself in the middle of this scene. You think that's heroic? I think it's friggin' stupid. I think it's stupid. And he's carrying a weapon that is legal, but he doesn't have any ID. He doesn't have a card to say it's legal. What do you think is going to happen when these guys who are working 10 to 12 hours a day in a job that they either really believe in or they freaking hate, but there's pressure all over the place because there are entire groups of people that are out there calling them fucking pigs, getting in their face, spitting at them, screaming, right? This is not a great situation. And it's not the first time that it's happened, right? 10 soldiers and Nixon's coming. We're finally on our own. Kent State. Remember the 4 dead in Ohio? This has happened before. You don't mess with people that have guns. You don't piss off people who are on edge, right, that have guns. Well, here's the thing. Consequences, yes, that is what law is for. Arrest, yes. He did not deserve to be shot. How the hell do you make that decision in a half a second, just Joan? You see a guy and they're yelling, gun, gun. They hear a shot. You think they should put their guns down and go, let's see what this guy's doing. Let's find out if this is a bad guy or a good guy. No, put yourself into these situations and win stupid friggin' prizes. I'm sorry, but this is how it goes down. Hit a cop with your car and you get shot in the neck. Don't start screaming about how it shouldn't have happened, right? Don't drive into police officers. Don't decide that because you disagree with what they're doing, it's okay to break the law. If a cop is doing something and you go and get in the middle of what he's doing, that is actually a felony. You cannot interfere with an officer who is in the process of doing what he does for a living, right?
The tension was crackling there.
The tension was crackling. The gun was on his hip. The camera was in his hand. True? Yeah, absolutely. But the cop that pushed the woman down, when he goes over there and gets in the middle of that, he's interfering with an officer executing their duty. If you don't agree with what the officer says, then take it up legally in court. But when you put yourself in the middle of that and you're carrying a friggin' gun, the odds that you're going to get shot are pretty damn good. They're pretty damn good. Why did you take a gun to a protest if you had no intention of using it? Why were you packing heat, going down with the intention of interfering with cops? He's carrying 2 extra magazines. This is a guy that thought, man, I might need 36 rounds. This doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm sorry, just Joan. I'm sorry that they're dead, but they didn't have to be. They made a decision to put themselves in the line of shot, right? Both cases. If you stayed at home, if you stood on the friggin' sidewalk and said, ICE has got to go, ICE has got to go, no problem. No problem. Where are those people getting shot? The answer is they're not. But if you want to go up to the Pacific Northwest and stop government vehicles from going into their parking lot or stop government vehicles from leaving that parking lot, you've just committed a felony. And when you start committing felonies, bad things happen, right? I'm not happy these guys are dead, but I tell you the truth, man. Oh no. There was nobody weeping for me when they came and put me in handcuffs. You break the law, bad shit happens. If you break the law carrying a pistol or you take a 2,000-pound vehicle and run into a cop with it, and I don't care about the politics. This has nothing to do with the politics. I'm sorry, it doesn't. But this isn't protesting. This is breaking the freaking law, right? He's breaking the law.
You have 36 rounds. You're on a mission, says Tony Blair.
Well, he's right. 36 rounds is a mission. And this is a guy that had quit his job. His parents, the people that ought to be out screaming that he got screwed, are out saying, yeah, he joined a group of some pretty radical people, right? This is what he has decided that he's going to do instead of working. He sort of have gone off the rails in the last couple of months. Hey, Jody, you look fantastic in green. And I do appreciate that. And I know, look, I know that people are going to get pissed off at this, right? How do people protest peacefully? Stand on the sidewalk with a bullhorn. carry big placards. If you interfere with a cop doing his job, that's not protesting. That's a felony. Right? Honest to God. Like, look at the 1960s, sit-ins. The cops would show, the military would show up and they would put a flower down the barrel. Now they're this close to their face screaming, "You pig mother effers, baby killing pig mother effers." Hello? Right? You're picking a fight with a guy with a gun. What do you think's going to happen? You know, how many videos have we seen of people this close to a cop's face calling him every four-letter word you can think of? But the cops have to just be absolutely stoic and put up with that kind of abuse. I don't think so. I'm sorry, I don't. I've never, ever gotten away with anything like that. You say something like that to a cop is going to do what is necessary to make you stop. Protesting is protesting. Committing a felony is committing a felony. So what can they do? They cannot interfere with what the cops are doing. If you don't agree, go and protest at your governors or at your senators. Go and talk to the people that can actually do something about the law. You're busting the balls of somebody who's following the orders for the job that they have. Those orders came down from the top. If you hate the president, protest that. But to go and interfere with someone that is trying to do what they do for a living, and by the way, packing heat, you have a good chance of somebody getting shot. And when they do, it's amazing how fast they go, "This person never hurt anybody. They never cared," right? It's so much, this is such a kind and loving person who just happened to have 36 rounds, maybe 40 rounds of ammunition on him, going down to protest after last week being tackled by ICE. These people are trying to get into fights with people with guns. This time, this jackwagon brought a gun with him. Oh, no.
Boy, Cali Chaos. You speak common sense, honestly. It's not political. If you have behave and live, you won't die.
Don't interfere with their mission.
Yeah.
Don't take a weapon while protesting. It's that simple. Well, that's a pretty good start. How about don't interfere, man? Hey, I appreciate that, Legalize. And I understand why this is absolutely something that people feel visceral about. But make no mistake, they are committing felonies. Trying to stop an officer from doing what they're ordered to do is a felony. And you can church this up any way you want. You can talk about it any freaking way you want. They're committing a felony. If you die in the commission of a felony, oh no, right? Nobody ever shed a tear for any of my friends that died that way. And they shouldn't have, right? I'm not lamenting my friends who have been shot committing crimes. It's what happens, man. Governor of Washington is already planning for when the militia called ICE comes. Well, here's the thing. Here's another thing. If a governor of a state says the federal government ordered ICE in there, I'm going to send my troops in there to fight them, that's a felony. That's a felony. You dislike it, come up with a different way to fight. Because if you commit felonies, bad shit's going to happen. You understand this? Look,
you knew that.
Poor Miss.
We knew it
when we were criminals. I knew exactly what the risk I was taking was. I knew how much time it carried. But these people go out and commit felonies and then go, "Oh my God, what the hell happened?" Right? They can arrest us for this. Yeah, they can arrest you for that. And if you take it to the next level, I believe the Civil War is just around the corner here in the States. And you know what's funny, just Joan, with all due respect? You believe that the government is at fault for this. If you don't have revolutionaries, you don't have a civil war, right? When the 4 dead in Ohio thing happened, there was a quote from one of the people's father who got killed who said, "While I mourn the loss of my son, I would buy dinner for the man that shot him." Revolutionaries die. It's what they do. That's horrific, but it's also the truth. If you decide that you want to fight in a revolution, you stand a good chance of getting shot. Now, here's the thing. If you believe that there's no problem whatsoever to people being in this country illegally, I respect your opinion. I absolutely respect your opinion. You want that opinion, it's yours, right? However, it is a felony. Carries 5 years in prison. But that felony, we shouldn't worry about that one, right? No problem there. Now, all these other felonies, like the shit that I did, no, you need to be punished for that. But that felony isn't a felony in the eyes of the people that think what ICE is doing there is just wrong. These are people that are just here for a better life. And you know what? Maybe that's the case. But the number one cause of death in our country is drug overdose. And that isn't just from people that wanted a better life. That's people that wanted a better life by selling dope on our streets. And you can bullshit all you want and say, well, that's not illegal. I bought dope for 30 freaking years, and I never bought from anybody that was in this country legally. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, because a lot of people are going to be hitting the unsubscribe button. And I'm not busting the balls of the mission. I don't care whether you agree with this or you don't agree with it. But stop taking the entire thing off the table that these people are interfering with the government in a way that is called felonious, right? You want to stop a government vehicle from going somewhere? That's a felony, right? You can't just harass people nonstop. That's not protesting. It isn't, right? If they sat in the road, right, on the sides of the road with signs for 5 years, nothing's going to happen to them. Free speech, you can have all the free speech you freaking want. But when you put the people in the road this way, so government vehicles can't drive past you, you've committed a felony. And whatever happens to you, you may remember if you're old enough, they were shipping weapons out of a place in Maine. And there was a gentleman that decided he was going to lay on the railroad tracks. A bunch of people did. To keep these weapons, I think they were MX missiles. I could be wrong. It's been a long time. It's the early 80s. But they laid on the railroad tracks for the purpose of stopping that from happening. And everybody got up when the train started coming except one gentleman who lost his legs. I hope it was worth it. Right? That's a pretty rowdy protest. But I'm sorry.
Go into his living room and shoot him.
But they didn't head into his house and cut his legs off. He chose to lay on the railroad tracks. He chose not to move. If that's your form of protesting, then whatever happens to you, happens to you. There is an incredible guy that's kind of written the book on protesting. He's been arrested 400 and some odd times. But he said, this isn't protesting. That's not what this is. These are felonies. These are people out breaking the law. And they're breaking the law and going up against people that are carrying automatic weapons. I got an idea. Use your friggin' head.
Full round, find out.
If, as sad as it is that these two people are dead, they didn't have to be at all. They could have protested standing on the street corner and they would be alive, right? But they got up in the faces of these people, right? Running around with a camera and holding it a foot away from a guy that is in the process of trying to do his job, right? That's interfering with an officer in the execution of his duties. That's a felony in almost every state. If it's not, it's a gross misdemeanor. But nevertheless, you're breaking the law. Breaking the law, breaking the law. I'm sorry that this shit happened. But guess what? It's going to happen again. Don't be shocked, right? And everyone will scream, oh, those bastards. Those bastards are trying to do their job. Kind of a bummer, but it is the way it is. And you know what? I'm going to get all kinds of hate for it. On the bright side, I'm willing to take it. I really am. Renee B, good to see you. You know what? My chat is doing that thing where it slows down. So I don't know how long that's been up there, but I really do appreciate it. I am really having problems with this chat, man. In fact, now it's not working, period. Let's see if we can get it back. Okay, maybe. Hey.
Like, comment, subscribe.
I don't know if you've seen her in black, but holy hell, man. She was wearing black last night. Had me feeling some kind of a way. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, still a little smitten. Hey, good to see you, Relatable Reese. That's my better half, you know. Most of those idiots aren't out there for some political or ideological cause. They just want to cause mayhem. Well, there's some truth to that, right? I feel like the last guy that got shot was just trying to document what was going on with the camera and just happened to have a gun for protection. Protection against who? Who was the protection against? Legalize. Not being disrespectful, but you mean that he had it for protection against the cops, which means you were going out there with the intent of maybe having to draw that weapon against police officers. Because if the only people you got to worry about are cops and you think there's a chance they're going to shoot you, stay home, right? Use your dome. But if he was carrying 36 rounds of ammunition, that's not defense. That's a friggin' attack, right? 2 extra magazines. And you research it and people go, by gun standards, that's not a lot. By criminal standards, it's a shitload. It's more than most cops carry for backup. What's that?
Each bullet's going to carry an extra charge.
Correct. Please tell me your thoughts on January 6th and Ashley Babbitt. Well, I should probably do a whole show on that. But Ashley Babbitt was murdered. It is. She was shot by somebody. She was on the other side of a door. They shot through. She was on the other side. She was not any threat to anybody. Ashley Babbitt was murdered. However, should Ashley Babbitt have been there trying to kick a door in to get inside there? If she didn't do that, Ashley Babbitt would still be with us. And that is, by the way, I'm glad that you asked that, because that's the other side. I don't give a shit if this is right or left. If you interfere with people trying to do their job and you commit a felony in the process, Ashley Babbitt should not have been shot, right? She shouldn't have. However, Ashley Babbitt could have avoided that.
She had no business being there.
She had no business trying to break into the Capitol, right? I'm sorry that happened. And January 6th is the whole unusual kettle of fish because of how many people seemed to be trying to encourage that, right? That seems like a really effed up deal. There's a lot of people who have been photographed that looked remarkably like they may work for our government. January 6th is a shit show. It really is. But nevertheless, if you commit felonies, you stand a really good chance of getting shot. That I don't take joy in that. But I'm also not. Sorry?
I'll never die at a protest.
Yeah, Johnny Scoville's not going to die at a protest. The odds of me getting shot at a protest are pretty friggin' thin. And you know what? I use my voice to protest shit all the time. But I sure as hell wouldn't try to stop somebody, nor would I try to assist them. Right? What if I agree with what they're doing? Can I go up and go, hey, I'll grab this guy and throw him in the back of your car with you? Don't interfere with what's going on. You want to take a side? Write letters to your politicians. Right? For real. Start a YouTube channel. Use your voice. Go out there and hold signs. Do things that are protesting, not committing felonies. And that gentleman was carrying a pistol, exactly right, to defend himself. Didn't really get a chance to, did he? He was trying to document. Yeah, that's necessary, right? Because there aren't 1,000 people that are documenting that from the sidewalk. You don't need to be 6 inches away from the officer that is doing their duty. Those people are trying to force engagement. They're trying to make ICE look bad by getting smacked in the head with a nightstick, getting pistol whipped, pepper sprayed, or getting shot, right? That's not peaceful protesting by any stretch. And the people that keep saying peaceful protesting, you don't own the hotel they trashed last night. Why did they trash that hotel? Because the hotel had the audacity to rent rooms to ICE. Does that make those people, criminals? They should have their property destroyed in a peaceful protest because some of the people that they rented to, right, work for ICE. If that's your opinion, I get it. It's not legal. It's a felony, right? And those people who are trashing the lobbies, someone's going to get hit in the head. Someone's going to get shot. Someone's going to get pepper sprayed. Guess what? You commit felonies in the face of police officers, in the face of federal agents. You got a pretty good shot at getting shot. If Ms. Good stayed home that day, if she had stayed on the sidewalk that day, if she didn't try to engage cops by screaming at them, she'd still be with us protesting. But that's not what she did, right? She went hard to the paint. And because of that, she's dead. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. He was on a set of steps in the view you saw. So he was not, by any chance, putting his phone in the face of an officer. You didn't see that one? Well, okay. I guess we'll agree to disagree on that. They literally get trained on how to antagonize. These people are funded.
Yeah.
Do you understand? They're funded. That's what the parents were talking about when they say they had the opportunity, right, for him to start working with a group that they thought wasn't necessarily a good thing for him. You know, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how many people think of these people as martyrs, because they're not. They're idiots. For real. And you know the funny thing? In 2 years, you're not going to remember their names. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. It's pathetic. It didn't move their movement at all. Is it driving us toward a a revolution in our country? It might be. I will never lie to you, Just Joan. I promise. I will never lie to you. And I wholeheartedly believe that he never reached for his gun. I think the government bullshits that. I don't think he reached for his gun. I don't think he had a shot at reaching for his gun. But I'll tell you something. When they say get on the ground and put your hands behind your head, if you're carrying a pistol, put your friggin' hands behind your head. If you watch the clip of that, they're punching him. Right? They're not punching him for shits and giggles. They're punching him because he's not complying. Yeah, I don't blame you. This kind of stuff doesn't happen down here. Do I think Trump is doing a good job? I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't. For the purpose of this conversation, it means absolutely nothing to me. It really, and I hate to sound like a dick that way, but I don't care. There are people breaking the law. You either agree that people who break the law need to be dealt with, or you believe there are certain laws that anybody should be allowed to break. For instance, coming into the United States without paperwork and living there, doing whatever you want. If that's a law you don't think is an issue, then you probably think Trump is a scumbag. If you think that that is a crime and people who commit crimes need to be prosecuted for those crimes and deported because that's what's supposed to happen to people that do that, then you might agree with him. I don't give a shit. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I like the fact that there are a lot less drugs and a lot less overdose on the street. You know what? They're not just, this is a great comment and it's one worth, and look, I love you. We get along and we can agree to disagree on something. But do me a favor and put a 2 in the chat if you agree with this. They aren't just targeting criminals. Put a 2 in the chat if you agree with that. If you disagree with that, put a 3 in the chat. Because here's my stance on this. When they came in here illegally, they're breaking the law. They're a criminal. By definition, a criminal is someone guilty of a crime, correct? Am I wrong on this one?
You're dead right.
Because when they come in here, and look, I just came here. If I decided to come here, and not tell anyone I was here, first of all, it would be very difficult to make content that way. But if I decided to just come into Ecuador and try to lay low and just illegally live here, I'd be a criminal again, right? You got to do things the right way. And we do have a system in place for people to try to get citizenship, right? My great-grandparents did that, right? My grandparents on the other side did that. This is how people became Americans. It's a melting pot. But those people are criminals by definition. Now, you may think that that's not a crime that is worth calling a crime, but they're most assuredly criminals. I think that Dems and reps all have their heads up their asses and are just hiding away and pretending it's not happening. Here's the thing, and we can do this one, all day, but here's kind of how it works. Barack Obama voted to put up a wall, right? All of the people in Congress voted to put up a wall, and then they hated it as soon as Trump came up with the idea. So for everyone that goes, that's a racist pig that wants a wall up, the Dems voted for it too. They love voting for stuff that they don't have to actually put their nuts on the table for. Once it all of a sudden could really happen, it was homophobic, it was racist, it was xenophobic, it was every kind of phobic you could wrap your brain around. The hypocrisy of all of them is disgusting, right? And the Republicans absolutely hate anybody that wants to come into this country, right? However, the truth of the matter is, Reagan was the only president that said, I'm going to take all of these people, 6 million and change, and make them citizens, right? Give them a path to citizenship. But the promise back then was, we'll shut the border down so no more will come in. They didn't do that, right? They said you can't throw a switch and just shut down the border. But now that it's been done, Bernie Sanders bailed on his party because he said, absolutely, they can throw a switch. They lied to me. But these people are most assuredly breaking the law. And if you disagree with me on that, I'm not mad at you, right? But they broke the law. By coming here illegally, they broke the law. And then what people say is, yeah, but if you arrest those people, you separate them from their kids. What do you think happened to Spanx Calhoun when I went to prison? Think we got to hang out? No, I broke the law. I was an asshole. And when you break the law, you screw your family over just as bad as you screw over yourself. I'm sorry, but that's the way it works. I went to prison for guns. I did a lot of time. And I didn't get to be there for my son. I didn't get to be there for my daughter. I could have cried about it. Yeah, or my brother or my parents, right? You do time and everybody you love does time with you. But the only crime that seems to really piss people off about that is this one, right? Because this isn't a crime, right? This isn't a crime. Well, then get rid of the law. Open the borders wide up. Say anybody that can come in here, do whatever they want, right? Make that a law. But for now, they're criminals. They broke the law. They're here illegally. That's kind of how it works. Right? It doesn't make me a good person for saying this, but it doesn't make me a bad one either. These are facts. Right? He was legal to carry that gun, not without an ID. Sorry, that's the law. You don't like that? Change the law. How do you do that? You don't do it by getting in the face of the people that are trying to do their job and seeing if you can get them to shoot you. It's not going to move your ball any further down the field, I promise you. What it's going to do is ensure that you're not around your family for the rest of eternity. You couldn't just move into the country you live in now. That's what countries do. No, I could not. I could not. In fact, at the 180-day mark, they just come and get you, right? They will come and get you and make you leave. You have to fill out paperwork to get a visa that you can stay here. It's called a work visa. That's 2 years. After that work visa, if I do not, so here's the rules on where I live. I can't leave this country for more than 180 days in total in the next 2 years, which shouldn't be a problem because I don't intend to leave this country ever again, right? I'm pretty happy here. But at the end of those 2 years, I can now file for full citizenship, at which point I get a really cool passport that's brown. I can still keep my blue one.
I think it's red.
Well, it's like a burnt umber. To cross imaginary lines. Well, they're not imaginary lines, are they? I'm sorry, but they're not imaginary lines. And the people that believe they're imaginary lines, you end up with the kind of stuff that's happening in Great Britain. Talk to our friends from Great Britain about imaginary lines and what's happening to their country. There are things that make a country, whether you like to admit this or not. And you know what they are? They're borders, right? That's what makes a country. Borders, language, and culture. If you get rid of all those, you don't have a country. You may not like me for saying that, but look it up. I mean, what is a country by definition? What makes a country? Do you believe that this is still about immigration and not about just trying to take control of people? I believe immigration was an excuse. Sorry, but I do. How are they taking control? I don't understand exactly the theory. So by going and doing this, they're going to exert more control over the rest of us who are citizens? I don't believe that. I believe that when presidents, I am in Ecuador, Chrysler, George, I live in Ecuador. I believe that when a president runs on a particular subject matter, then he sticks with it. And this is a president who was voted in by more than half of the country that wanted this to happen, right? That's called a mandate. And those people that voted for him, who most of you will call idiots if you're on the left, right? But those people said, I want this to happen. Now, take a look at California for shits and giggles. California could be a country. The amount of money that they bring in taxes every year is insane. The amount of money that they earn is absolutely insane. But if you look at how much money they pull out of the government to give out to social programs, and a grip of that is going to people that aren't American citizens. Now, the people in the rest of the country go, well, that's kind of effed up, right? If you happen to live in Vermont or New Hampshire, you can't be really fired up that California is sucking almost the majority of the cash that is going out in social programs, and it's going to people that aren't citizens. That's a problem. This is actually a decent question. What about carrying a gun with an orange tip?
It's called a toy.
It's called a toy. And you know how many people are dead because they got caught carrying toys? You pull out a gun that has an orange tip on it, and you have to anticipate that the people that did this are going to realize that that's not a real weapon fast enough to not kill you. And there are officers all over the country that shot kids that pulled those guns out. It's a dangerous thing to do. I believe to be able to travel freely between countries freely, or no one is free unless you're a violent criminal. Okay. All right. So there has to be something to make sure that the problem with traveling is, you mean they can travel and stay here, correct? What happens is you cross that border and instantly you can file for food stamps. And if you think this is bullshit, you can go to Mexico and see storefronts. I went there with my ex-wife that say, come in here, we'll show you how to file for food stamps before you cross the border. How much money do you think we can come up with as a country if we allow 6 million people to come in, just 6, and say, we're going to give all you food stamps. We're going to give all of you free health care. We're going to let all of you get driver's licenses. We're going to let all of you send your kids to our schools. It doesn't work. It sounds fantastic, right? But it doesn't work, man. It's a bummer. right? Nobody likes this. I'm going to lose subscribers. This is a subject I would have loved to have not talked about. But shitloads of you are leaving comments saying, why aren't you going to talk about this? So here's what I'm talking about, right? This is critical thinking 101. I'm sorry, but you don't believe in the handouts. Well, then you can't have it both ways, my brother. You can't have it both ways. If you believe that no one is free unless they can travel any way they want, when they travel, the handout is the first thing that happens, man. That's the first thing that happens. Just Joan, I'm not sure if that proves anything, but no one wants to send ICE to Milan to provide security for Americans. Milan said, hell no, you are not welcome. Well, I'm not surprised by that. Ecuador said, we don't want Americans in here. Most places want autonomy. They don't want other countries coming in there. I respect that, by the way. I absolutely respect Greenland saying, we don't want America in there. So I respect the shit out of that. What just the whole talk about Greenland bums me out. And in my opinion, it's America getting ready for World War III. And I think Trump is getting ready for World War III because the debt spiral that every freaking president since probably the 40s, right, has helped put us into a debt that we're never going to be able to get out of. The only thing that's going to save that is World War III. That sucks, but it's the truth, right? Our country is not welfare for the world's needy. You know what, Vegas in Bama, it kind of is, unfortunately, right? How do they apply for assistance without a driver's license or a social security number? No problem whatsoever. No problem whatsoever. Not in California. There are places where that is an issue. There are places that it is not. Todd says World War III has already begun, and I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And I think that Greenland is very strategic for the U.S. in terms of that war. I'm not happy with Trump. If you guys are sitting here thinking I'm MAGA people, I'm not. But I'm a criminal, right? And I reformed. And if you're breaking the freaking law, deal with whatever you're going to deal with. I did, right? I didn't cry about it. And if I lived to be 100, I pissed about 15% of my life down the toilet doing time in prison. But these guys can come in 5 years. That's the sentence for coming into this country illegally and staying here. They'll just get deported. Come back, do it again. The second time it's supposed to carry 10. Why is it they can keep doing this shit and I can't? Every crime I did, I got sentenced for. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe quickly while I still have a channel. Tommy, what do you think about a child being born in a country becoming a citizen when their parents aren't? Not possible in most countries. I think it was a great idea when we came up with it. There was a time, believe it or not, folks, where we had zero immigration. We had gotten to a point where we were completely cool. We shut down Ellis Island. We thought we had plenty of people here, and we had zero, right, immigration. We were set. We do need immigration. It is absolutely an important thing. So there was a time where we said, well, if a kid is born here in the United States, they're automatically an American citizen. Unfortunately, any law that you come up with like that becomes abused. And this has been researched ad nauseum. And believe it or not, it's not the people south of our border that does this the most. It's Chinese folks, where a woman will fly over here 8 months pregnant, disappear into the country until she gives birth so she can have an anchor baby, someone who ties to the country now. This is not a fun situation for any reason, right? This isn't. It's not a fun thing to talk about. I'm not stoked talking about this. I'd much rather talk about true crime. But for all intent and purpose, folks, this is true crime. The guy that got shot was committing a felony. In fact, multiple felonies. And I'm sorry that he's dead, man. I don't want anybody dead. But I'm not going to shed a tear either. You know, I got friends that got shot in the commission of felonies, a bunch of them. Right? I knew a guy that was in the process of robbing a bank. And on the way out, you know, they said, stop, drop to the ground. That's all he had to do. Right? By the way, he was not carrying a weapon. But they assume if you're robbing a bank, you're carrying a weapon. Right? Amy, of course he was. Of course he was. Absolutely he was. He was carrying a pistol, right, that he did not have any identification for him on. You can't do that. That's illegal carrying. On top of that, he was interfering with officers in the commission of their jobs. That's a felony. In the process of stopping a cop from doing what he wants to do, I understand. You want to go help that woman. Tough shit. You're breaking the law. You don't have to agree with me. Oh, you know what? Look at you. Which part's bullshit, Amy? No, leave her. Every once in a while, you need stupidity. I'm sorry, but how's that bullshit? Did he have ID on him? You're telling me I'm lying about that? So he had ID on him, huh, Amy? He had ID on him. He went out, a cop was interfering, right? A woman and a cop were having an issue. He went and got between them. That is interfering with an officer in the commission of his duty. I don't care how you want to look at it. You can say bullshit all you want, but that is exactly what was happening. Sorry about his luck. Sorry that he's dead. I really am. But if he stayed home, if he wasn't carrying a pistol, he'd still be with us.
Amy's into that truthiness.
Yeah, Amy's into truthiness. But you know something? I get it. Facts matter. Not to everybody, Cali Chaos. I promise you. You're going to hear all kinds of people that say that, and the people that are coming across the border are not breaking the law. They just want to be here. There's a law that says you can't do that.
If you remove the emotion from it, everybody would agree. But there's emotion involved, and that's why she says it.
He was committing felonies. If you agree or not, it's the law. Your agreement doesn't matter. And that's the truth. You can say bullshit. In fact, you can call me an asshole, right? It's all good. I understand. There's nothing worse than when your argument doesn't have anything to put legs under, right? I'm not saying the guy deserved to die. But if he didn't do what he did, he'd still be with us, just like the chick in the car. I'm sorry. If you want to go out and start, you believe that people lied that he was holding his gun when it was holstered, that he had no ID, he worked down the street, they stopped to film ICE doing something. You're wrong. You're wrong. He has been protesting, right, since he stopped working 2 months ago. Right? Did you hear this part, Amy? Or was that too truthy? Recent behavior. Pretti's parents, Michael and Susan Pretti, revealed that he had quit his hospital job months earlier and started exhibiting unusual behavior. Recently, possible joining some kind of protest group. They warned him against engaging in protest, but messages from his phone recovered by police suggest deeper involvement. A week before the shooting, he reportedly broke a rib during a confrontation with federal agents while protesting. He was tackled for impeding operations. So it wasn't the first time he did it, but the second time he thought, I'm bringing a gun this time, right? This time I'm packing heat. So he worked right down the street. He didn't work anymore, Amy. Sounds good. He also didn't have identification on him. I don't believe he was going for his gun. I believe that gun went off when the agents took it out of his holster. Why do I believe that? Because I know the Sig Sauer P320. It is one of the only guns you will ever come across, right, that absolutely has been sued for this and had to settle. Their guns go off when you shake them. You're better off not carrying a gun than carrying that one. I don't believe the police. You know what, Legalize? If that's the route you go, then you're set, right? If you just go, I believe that everything the cop says are bullshit, then just watch the video. They were in the commission of their duty, and he went in there trying to stop them. There you go. Do you not believe that, right? Because we have that on film. Do you believe his parents saying he quit working a couple of months ago? Why would his parents say this? I mean, it F's with their ability for a huge lawsuit, doesn't it? I mean, seriously, you think about a stupid thing to say.
In that moment, the backfire of a car could have started that shooting.
Kathy says that gun's known for going off. And Kathy was in the military, so she knows this gun not as a P320, but so you saw the video frame by frame. And what does that mean? I'm not sure where you're going with that. So he didn't do anything wrong. He was not interfering with the cops in the commission of their duties. We saw a very different video, my man. I love you, but we saw a very different video. Did you find out whether the Charlie Kirk shooter alleged wife, Erica, her family? I'm not touching that one tonight. If I'm going to get people to hate me, I want to do it one issue at a time. You know what I mean? I start tackling Charlie Kirk on the same night. I'm going to wake up tomorrow with 23,000 subs. Look, I don't think he ever touched his gun. I don't believe the police on that. I don't think he touched his gun. I also don't think that he complied with what they told him to do, which is a problem. He was not interfering. Okay, Legalize. I appreciate that. When that woman got shoved to the ground and he went over there and got between her and an officer, no matter what you want to believe, that's interfering with an officer in the commission of their duties. There's just no way to debate that. And I love you too. But that's what happened. The world can look at it. You know, it doesn't mean that the guy deserved to die. Nobody deserves to die.
Ask him to remove emotion. If he still feels
if you remove emotion, right? What was he doing then? He was just trying to help a woman. Well, you just can't try to help someone if the cops are in the process of not helping that woman, right? That's called coming to the aid of somebody that a cop is trying to either arrest pepper spray, get rid of. You're interfering with a cop or a federal agent in the commission of their duties. I promise you that's never going to work out good for you. How do you go from Veterans Hospital ICU nurse to radical group? That old chestnut, MK Ultra? Perhaps. I mean, perhaps. I believe they're still doing that stuff. I absolutely believe they're still doing that stuff. And I also believe that there's a vested interest in all of us hating each other, right? And the people that believe that that he was just murdered, right, for shits and giggles. But technically, he then interfered. Look, I'm not saying he wasn't murdered. However, if you get murdered in the commission of a felony, they don't call it murder. It's very unfortunate. If he was carrying a Beretta, right, P9, if he was carrying a Taurus, if he was carrying anything over other than what he was carrying, he might still be with us. I don't think they were trying to kill him. I think when that gun went off, they unloaded. That's what cops do.
The backfire of a car could have caused that.
Well, he would be okay carrying his gun, Grouchy Mama Bear, if he had the permit with him, right? Your concealed carry permit and your license. Those are the things that make carrying a gun legal. He didn't have any ID on him, right? No matter what our friend says, right down the street, right? He worked right down the street. Not in months, he didn't, right? That guy hadn't worked in months. What's missing is the totality of the circumstances. Were they harassing them earlier? It's what he has been doing. You can see why Reese loves me. I hope Reese was here to hear that. That's not why she loves me. I give a really mean foot rub. That's why she loves me. While we're having this open conversation, I would like to say that no one went to the moon. I love it. Thank you. That's awesome. Look, I don't have a problem with anybody carrying a weapon, right? But you got to follow the rules, right? I can't carry one, right? Legally, even if I were to stay in the United States, I'll never be able to hold it. You all right, Katie? I'll never be able to carry a weapon again because that's the law, right? There's a lot of laws that I now have to live with.
But guess what? You do. You're not a lawbreaker anymore.
We bicker over politics and race and religion. There is war. There is peace. That's a human decision. You can either be my brother or another collision. Love it. I think that is the point. I really disagree with. These criminals, heads of the Proud Boys, is part of ICE now. Is that right? Can you prove that? Are not fully trained officers of the law. That's what pisses me off the most. You know what pisses me off is when people say stuff like that, Joan. Send me all of the stuff you've got on how the Proud Boys are part of ICE. I'm sorry, but here's the thing. Now we get this, right? Thanks. I was waiting for confirmation on Proud Boys and ICE. It makes sense. That was your confirmation, Christianese? Then you suck at critical thinking. I'm sorry. That's confirmation? Let me confirm it the other way. There's no truth whatsoever to that. Which one of us confirmed it? Somebody left a comment earlier that said, it has just been released that Rob Reiner was working with the CIA. And I left a comment and said, where can I find that? Right? And they said, well, you're not going to find it out there, right? However, my intuition tells me it's so. Well, that's a lot different than that's out there. Based on reports as of late January 26, it is false that the former head of the Proud Boys, Enrico Tarrio, is part of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. It has been debunked, right? You can try to find it, but it has been debunked. Even Snopes debunked this. It's not true. However, when we say stuff like that, right? No, you're not trying to lie. It's just that if you don't chase these down and you accept what somebody says as fact, then we absolutely mislead people by accident. And we have Christianese who goes, thanks for confirming that. That's not confirmation. I'm sorry, it's not. And that's a rumor that got a lot of traction. It's not true. It would be a hell of a lot of fun if it was, but it's not true. Good thing you and Johnny moved because Canada is ready to invade the States. Bring it, Caroline and Canada. They need that.
Let's eat a steak.
No, I'm not going to dial it back, Christianese. I'm not. Because it's frightening, right? You heard on a source Thanks for info update.
I
What you
saw
said
an
was,
hour ago that he was indicted. The cop who shot him was indicted.
yeah, there's a very popular video out there right now that talks about how the state, I mean that the guy that shot him was already charged. What you said was, thanks. I was waiting for confirmation on Proud Boys and ICE. Makes sense. You're going to have to keep waiting because there is no confirmation. And if I dial it back and we let this stuff go, this is how we take massive steps back, right? Because truth matters. This is why I talk about truthiness, and I still love you, right? But to take that at, oh, Ren is fantastic. Cricket's correct. If you've never checked out Ren, this is a, I don't know if you want to call him, what would you call the type of music? It's rap of a sort, but he's a poet more than anything else. Absolutely unbelievable poet who's been very open about his struggles with mental health, but just one of the most beautiful poets that you'll ever come across. Canada isn't invading shit, says Craig. Well, we can still hope. We can still hope. Hey, look, I love all of you. I really do. But you have to understand from my point of view, right? We do shows. I got 25,000 subs. And every day I get a comment left that says, hey, we just, thank you, just Joan. Never dial it back, Tommy. We need to openly confront the world as it exists today. Never stop learning what's going on. Well, and you know, like somebody who says, you know, it just came out that the CIA was working with, man, if I don't call that shit out, then people believe that. And if they hear it on my platform, it's even worse, right? Because people will go, oh yeah, you know, Tommy didn't call that. We got to be careful. And we got to be careful because there have been many, many wars started for shitty rumors, right? Bless you, Johnny Scoville. The number of you know, terrible things that happen just simply from why I post links in the chat now. Yeah, a lot of times those get deleted just because that's, once someone starts doing that, then other people start posting links to YouTube and content creators that I'm basically advertising for on my channel. And if you did this for a living, that would bum you out. But if you can say, I found this in the New York Times and here's the article, as opposed to linking stuff, I love seeing it. I really do. I lived in Minneapolis for a couple of years. F that place anyway. It's cold and expensive. See, Tara gets it. First of all, cold. I can't do cold. Bless you, says just Joan. And Joan Marie. A lot of blessing going on around here. Hold on one second. You can start dicing up. Going to get Johnny to do a little sous chef work here. Because when this is done, I'm doing a little cooking. That's right. I know it's late, but I didn't eat earlier. So look, I don't want anybody to hate me. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. But there are things that are just absolute facts. Somebody that comes into this country and doesn't do it by filing the paperwork has committed a felony. It is a felony punishable by 5 years in a federal prison. Now, you can say, I don't care. But it doesn't change the fact that they're criminals. A criminal is someone that knowingly breaks a law, right? Commits a crime, does it wantonly. Well, that's what they did. They came across the border and broke the law. Now, they can start living peacefully and doing great stuff. They still are a criminal by definition. So to say they're not just going after criminals, I assure you they are. You don't have to agree with the policy. Try to get the politicians to give us open borders and see how that works out, right? Your other channel, The Cooking Show. You know, I need to do a cooking show. I really do. I would love that. You know what? Legalize. I think you would dig it. I really do. I think you would. I think you would love Ecuador. It is a ask Reese. She'll tell you. It's just very, very different. We would never have to worry about the kind of stuff that's going on right now. We just straight up wouldn't. And to me, there's something really peaceful about that. Today, a bunch of people sent me some videos they wanted me to comment on. One of the videos showed 9 different arrests of people that literally, when they pulled up and they rolled down the windows, they said, F you to the cop. I'm not giving you my driver's license. You don't have a right to pull me over. You don't have the right to do this. You understand that it literally permeates every single part of, right? Every single part of this. Love you, Tommy. Never feel bad about being honest. Will cause hate. People who can't hear negative comments should never debate. Debate is how you learn. I agree with you. I agree with you. But to watch these people, this level of disrespect, you can't touch me, you can't put hands on me, you can't pull me over, I know my rights. This is what's destroying the country. I promise you, at every level. It destroys schools because kids do this to teachers. We have, for so many years, allowed people to just go, doesn't apply to me, F you, right? How many times you have to hear somebody go, are you serious right now? Are you kidding me right now? For pulling them over, right? We've lost it as a country. We've lost it. If anyone enjoyed this live stream, please don't. Oh, thank you. This will be demonetized. Trust and believe it already is. We said gun way too many times. In fact, I think I even put a picture up of the gun, didn't I? Yeah, you sure did. Yeah, look at this. If it wasn't demonetized before, it will be now. It's a very attractive firearm. It's also a stone cold chunk of shit, right? I promise you it is. I'm sorry. SIG makes great weapons. That one's not one of them. It is legendary among criminals to not carry because you got a really good chance of shooting yourself before the cops do. You shouldn't be shoveling, Cricket.
I'm not shoveling.
Right? And you're a woman. Is there not like a 19-year-old boy in that town that you can just sort of bat your eyes at and say, hey, would you shovel my I guarantee you there's a guy that would do that.
I shoveled a lot of driveways.
I was about to say, I shoveled a lot of driveways. When I was a kid and a cop or a teacher, yeah, right? I mean, never. Yeah, legalized. Not only do they have a hair trigger, there are so many things wrong with that gun. The weight of the trigger is an issue. So if you drop it, just the weight of the trigger itself can cause the thing to go off. There are so many problems with that gun. They had to recall it. They had to do a voluntary where if you bring it in, they modify it. And I'll tell you something crazy. 30 of the lawsuits that are currently open are on guns that have already been modified. So they're not even fixing it, unfortunately. I'm caretaking this house. I have no choice. I haven't seen a 19-year-old anyone I can bat my eyelashes at to get anything. It's all on me. Well, that sucks, Cricket. Yeah, Johnny Scoville said if you were in Ecuador, he would do it. Of course, there's not a lot of snow shoveling in Ecuador, so he can say that kind of bold stuff, but he wouldn't. I don't know that he would really do it if he had to actually shovel anything. All right, people. Look, I hope we can all get along. But here is the way I look at this. These two people didn't need to be dead. And you can extrapolate this and you can say it's the fault of the guys that shot him. If I show up to a gunfight and I get shot, it's not the fault of the guy that shot me. If I protest and my protesting commits felonies, then what happens to me happens to me. Normally, it should just be getting arrested. But you carry a gun there, it escalates stuff. You aim your car at a cop, that escalates stuff. Did they have the right to shoot them? I don't care. I don't. All I know is I spent a lot of time as a criminal. And when I broke the law, the things that happened to me, I expected to happen to me. And there was never a bunch of people standing around going, oh, poor Tommy, right? Why are they putting him in jail for robbing all those banks? Why are they putting him in jail for selling guns illegally? You break the law, you get what you got coming, man, right? Point of critical thinking is checking multiple sources for your information. I agree with you, Debbie Zito. I absolutely agree with you. In fact, it should be something that we all do. And this is going to sound crazy, but you can't always trust your eyes either. For real. I remember seeing, I can differ and still remain friends. I remember seeing multiple camera angles of different things where when you saw the first one, give you a perfect example. Do you remember when I was doing the Diddy stuff and we saw Justin Bieber and he was absolutely, obviously giving a mouth hug to a guy from the NFL, right? Then I saw a camera angle from the side. And although his head seemed to be directly in that man's crotch, there was 3 feet between them. And the camera angle from the back didn't give you any point of reference, right? It just didn't give you any kind of an opportunity. Christianese, I'm afraid of cops too. And no matter how long I stay sober or do the right thing, cops are always going to make me nervous. So if a cop pulls me over, I go like this, put my hands on the steering wheel, I don't move them, right? When the cop comes up, I go, you cool with me rolling down the window? People go, well, I'm afraid of cops. So I'm going to say, I'm not rolling down my window. I'm not doing anything you order me. That's probably not the way to be afraid of them. It'll give you plenty of more reason. Yeah, if you can back out and leave your emotions in check. I promise you, like when people say, do you think Trump's doing a good job? If I start this premise with, is Trump doing a good job or not? I've already made my decision on what happened. This guy's dead because Trump's an asshole. That's not critical thinking, right? So it's the opposite, right? It's ideology. Where did I source that he wasn't currently working at the VA? From his mother and father, who are quoted as saying, his parents, Michael and Susan Pretti, revealed he had quit his hospital job months earlier and exhibited unusual behavior. You can find that at Greg Katz 02, I believe, is the first place that it was quoted. Anonymo 400-29421. There's a bunch of different places that this has come out, but his parents are the ones that first put that forward. So, and again, doesn't help their lawsuit, right? I can empathize that you broke the law and you served your time. These people weren't allowed to do that. I didn't carry a pistol into the confrontations that I had with cops. If I did, I wouldn't have got to serve my time either. I probably would have ended up dead. But to say they were murdered in cold blood, Christy Collins, if I walk into your living room and shoot you while you're sitting on the couch, that's murdering you in cold blood. This was, and I think you will find out this is what happened, as they went to pull, right? As they went to pull that weapon out and that weapon went off, a bunch of hair-triggered cops that are terrified began to fire thinking they were getting shot at. It's a very unfortunate thing. If he was not doing what he was doing, he'd still be alive. If he didn't carry a gun and 2 extra clips with him to a protest for the second week in a row, got tackled the first week, second week he brought a gun with him. So to say murdered in cold blood, that's not what happened, right? If you do something, you're in the process of breaking the law. When this happens, that's not cold blood. Cold blood is when they come into your house and shoot you, or they do something along those lines. Yeah, go through a license check, do the breathalyzer check, follow orders, Christy and East. That makes sense, right? If you don't do that and you get pepper sprayed, and they'll say, they pepper sprayed me for no reason, right? You tell a cop to F off and you end up getting tased and they pull you out the window of the car. It's very much, in my opinion, Christy Collins, like being shot in cold blood, right? There's a great book called In Cold Blood. You should read it. Those people were killed in cold blood. You're at your house doing nothing that can bring any kind of police action to you. That's being murdered in cold blood. Murder, by the way, is killing somebody that did nothing. This guy was in the process of interfering with cops. It's a horrific, horrific thing that happened to him. But he wasn't murdered in cold blood. That verbiage is no bueno. All right, people, if I don't stop this feed and go cook for Johnny Scoville, apparently he's going to throw something at me. He's seriously, every 2 seconds he's been going, hey, food. You can't hear him, but he's doing it. Yeah, don't poke the bear. I mean, at this point, the manner of death is homicide. Whether it's justifiable is to be determined. I don't think that... I don't think no matter what happens, there's going to be any kind of universal agreement on this. But for those who go, they're not going after people that are lawbreakers. They're not just going after criminals. Everybody, by definition, who's in this country illegally is a criminal. If that makes you unhappy, well, I guess we have a different definition of what a criminal is. But somebody that breaks the law is a criminal. That's how I always did it. All right, everybody, you have a good night. Reese, if you're still here, I love you. Johnny is a sexy bully. Well, that is the word on the tier. All right, people, between now and the next time I see you, don't hate me, right? Seriously, don't hate me. And critical think stuff, I promise you, he wasn't committing a felony, though. I beg to differ, Debbie Zito. I beg to differ, right? Look up what it is to interfere with a federal officer in the commission of their duties. Look that up. He also was carrying a gun that he didn't have any ID or wasn't carrying his permit to carry that gun. But if you interfere with a cop in the commission of his duty, a federal officer in the commission of his duty, you're breaking the law. And that's exactly what he was doing. If he had stayed on his couch, you think he'd be dead? If he had stood on the corner and didn't get in the middle of a cop and someone a cop was messing with, he'd be alive. If he hadn't carried a gun there, then he would have gotten handcuffed and he would have gotten brought to jail and done his time. But instead, he was carrying a weapon and about 36 rounds of ammunition. Spark plug, that's disrespectful. You want me to shut the fuck up? Well, it's not very nice. Somebody with a wrench, hit that asshole. All right, people, have a great night. You heard me? You got a wrench, get that person out of here. I don't ever want to see him again. Between now and the next time I see you, Put a little love in your heart. I didn't call you names, you dickhead. Have a good night, everyone. I'm Tommy. We'll see you on the next one. God bless.